Okay. So the topic of today's workshop is VertiGIS Studio, how to upgrade, first of all, from Geocortex, and then how we at VertiGIS actually use VertiGIS Studio for our application. So VertiGIS Studio, you can build your own apps, but we at VertiGIS, we also use this web frame to build our vertical applications for, say, utilities, telcos, or facility management, right? So this will be a little bit the focus of today's workshop. And of course, afterwards, you can come up to me and also ask questions. So today's agenda, overview of VertiGIS Studio, why upgrade from Geocortex now? We will just highlight some of the reasons. Then some strategy and tools for migration, migrating the apps, how to get started today. So we will give you concrete details here. And then examples of how VertiGIS uses VertiGIS Studio. So VertiGIS Studio, it's a collection of industry-leading products to extend the platform from Esri ArcGIS. Of course, we're building on top of ArcGIS Enterprise, right? So first of all, you have the VertiGIS Studio Mobile. Within these frameworks, you can build your own apps using workflow and tools which you basically all know already from Geocortex. By the way, just to tell you this also right now already, we will show it later also in the architecture slide. Of course, you could also use Experience Builder and put the capabilities of VertiGIS Studio into the Experience Builder, for example, workflow, printing, reporting, etc. And then you can use Experience Builder to also build this on top of it. And last but not least, for example, most of printing, reporting, etc., they're also available now in ArcGIS Pro. So there you can also use these workflows and publish these in ArcGIS Pro and give these to the end users. And these are then the capabilities, right? So the Studio workflow, you know this from Geocortex. Now it's just a drag and drop designer. VertiGIS Studio reporting, VertiGIS Studio rebuilt it completely. Very nice functionality was multi-page print layouts, for example, to cover time-relevant data and multi-print layouts or line plots along long linear elements. So these are many of these different possibilities in the printing. VertiGIS Studio search. This is basically a Google-like search that you can search across all your data, and you need to define what you put into the index of the search, and then you can really find that data. Access control, very important tool to be able to delimit who should see what type of data. So what user groups or what user should see what type of data. And for example, certain users are not allowed to see certain attribute data. Maybe these are sensitive because these are financial data. Maybe other users are not allowed to see a certain geographic area, right? Because maybe it's a military area, nobody could see it. Or maybe a certain feature layer or feature service should not be seen by a user or a user group. So you can restrict with this the different viewing or editing rights on user and user groups. And last but not least, VertiGIS Studio Analytics is a tool to look at the health of your server. So there's about, is there enough RAM? Is the performance okay? Do I need to add more name on that? All these tools are available. And not all of these, but all of these are, of course, available on premise. And there's a little cloud. These are available also in software as a service. So there you don't need to deploy it anymore on your just the service from VertiGIS and can consume the capabilities or the web frameworks as SaaS. So that looks like this. You have either ArcGIS Enterprise as a basis or ArcGIS Online, depending what you'd like to use. And you may have also ArcGIS Pro to be able to publish workflow reporting, printing there, or you can actually use these capabilities also in ArcGIS Experience Builder. So it's also possible. How is the general setup? Well, you have capabilities. The viewer frameworks, let's start with the portal. Of course, you all know ArcGIS Enterprise with Portal for ArcGIS, which you probably know. There you have first of all, your web map. So everything is now centered on the web map, right? So most of the configurations you first need to do in the web map, data symbology and properties, all this is done in the web map. And then actually, we have also web scenes.
And then you can put these into, basically you need to decide what kind of app you want to build. We recommend VertiGIS Studio Web because it gives you the greatest liberties, the highest degrees of liberties, or VertiGIS Studio Mobile for mobile. But of course, you could use also ArcGIS Experience Builder or ArcGIS Pro.
Foundation first, I should have the price.
Yes.
Then any of these four are on top of the enterprise, correct?
Yes. So you need ArcGIS Enterprise. Without ArcGIS Enterprise, of course, it does not work, right? And then you can define, you have your app, and for this app, you can then define your different workflows, your print template, your report templates. How do you define this? You define this web designer, right? So there's a web designer available for workflow. I will later show you this a bit for printing, for reporting. And once you have defined these, you assign this to this web app, right? Then you assign it to the web app. And all the configurations are actually always stored as item in portal, right? This way you can also manage the rights on these configuration items. They will be stored on the portal. Yeah, and this way, then you continue. Of course, this app will communicate with these ArcGIS items, as I explained, the portal, and then you can deploy them to your viewers and field workers out there in the field. And again, VertiGIS Studio Access Control will help you to define what the end users will see, what kind of data, in terms of attribute data, layers, or geographic areas. So this is a basic setup of VertiGIS Studio. And VertiGIS Studio Analytics, again, will help you to look at the health of the servers in the background. Now, if we compare this to the past with Geocortex, right? Geocortex Center is a feature-rich, all-in-one viewer framework. What we have with VertiGIS Studio is it kind of unbundled all these capabilities. So first of all, you have your viewer frameworks, and then these kind of workflow reporting, like I said, and you can use these basically all by themselves. Even from a product point of view, you can buy these capabilities one by one or just by yourself. So you could just, for Experience Builder, for example, just buy workflow. That is a possibility. The standard, what nearly all of our customers purchase as a product, is VertiGIS Studio Standard edition that gives you the web viewer, the workflow, reporting, and printing capabilities. And with this, probably 95% of the requirements of our users are covered. In terms of feature parity, right? So there you see all the different Geocortex essential tools and capabilities, and there you see the matching functionalities or there you will see the gap analysis. It's surpassed or exactly the same. There is the HTML via VertiGIS Studio Web. On the collaboration, there's a new way to do this, and you will see this later. Again, how is this packaged, right, from a licensing point of view? So, as I said, most of our users go with the VertiGIS Studio Workflow, Studio Reporting, Studio Printing, and the Studio Web. So the Studio Web as a framework to build your apps, all right? If you want to then you actually get a certain number of Studio Mobile. If you want to work with the Experience Builder, then this Studio Builder edition is the right way to go, because there you can get in the workflow, reporting, printing, for the Experience Builder. The Web App Builder is not anymore to read the Experience Builder. So these are the most important bundles. Of course, there's also an admin bundle for server health, etc. But for edition. Now, in terms of concrete steps, how to move to the new world, my colleagues from Canada have done a very, very nice movie, and I'd like to share this with you. I will share you afterwards the link also again so that you can review this again. But this is a very good summary of this. Let us start it. Working.
My name is Elisa, and I'm a technical support analyst on the VertiGIS Studio team. With the retirement of the ArcGIS API for JavaScript 3.x, you may be wondering what the process is like for transitioning your Geocortex Essentials site to the newer VertiGIS Studio web platform. In this tech tip video, we'll be looking at some key principles for making the transition process smoother. The main thing to keep in mind is that VertiGIS Studio Web runs on a different platform than Geocortex Essentials, so it's best to think of it as new software rather than a different version of your existing setup. The benefit of this is that you can have both Essentials and Web running at the same time without conflict. You can develop your new applications without impacting your existing users. Transitioning to the new platform offers an opportunity for assessing your apps and evaluating what capabilities your users truly need. You can optimize your tools, add new functionality, and modernize the look of your applications to keep them feeling fresh. Before we dive in, it's important to understand the differences between Geocortex Essentials and VertiGIS Studio Web. One feature you may notice off the bat is that VertiGIS Studio Web is more closely integrated with ArcGIS Online and Portal for ArcGIS Enterprise. This means that your apps and most of their contents will be stored in Portal or ArcGIS Online instead of being stored in a folder on the server. It also means that ArcGIS identities are necessary for signing into Web Designer and secured apps. Once you sign into Web Designer and open a new app, you may notice that the interface looks rather different from Essentials Manager. Unlike Essentials Manager, you are shown an interactive preview of your app. This allows you to test out changes in real time. It is also possible to customize the layout to suit your needs. The application is made up of modular components that can be added, removed, and rearranged to change the appearance of your app. Since a single app can have multiple layouts, there's a significant amount of flexibility in what you can design. Finally, one of the most important differences between Essentials and Web is that Web utilizes ArcGIS web maps. Instead of having information on map surfaces stored in a site XML file, they are saved in a web map that can be easily shared between different applications. Since web maps can be published directly from ArcGIS Pro and are also used in Esri applications like Experience Builder and Story Maps, they can help you consolidate your work and save time. Let's take a quick look at how to configure some simple settings in the web map. Here, we have Esri's map viewer. Let's try adding a layer from ArcGIS Server using its URL. Over in the Properties panel, we can configure its pop-up. Let's add a text element and summarize a few important details about the feature in a couple sentences. Now, let's look at the fields list. We don't need all of these fields to be visible, so let's remove some of them. Finally, let's add a chart to help users visualize the data. Now, we can save the web map. VertiGIS Studio Web Designer, we can open up the map component settings and select the map we just created. As you can see, when I select a feature, the Feature Details panel opens up with all of the pop-up information we just configured in the web map. A way to get to know how web maps work is to build them from scratch. We do offer a tool to help you copy your mapping data from your Geocortex viewer into a web map. To use it, you must be able to sign into Essentials Manager and your viewers using an ArcGIS identity. Since the tool saves the web map to ArcGIS Online or Portal, the Windows sign-in method will not work. To get started, let's open up the viewer's toolbar settings in Essentials Manager. In the list of available tools, we want to scroll down to the ArcGIS section and drag the Save to ArcGIS tool into the toolbar. Now, let's apply the changes and save the site. Once that's done, we can launch the viewer and sign in. Again, it's very important to sign into ArcGIS Online or Portal for ArcGIS Enterprise, otherwise the tool will not work. Once we're signed in, the Save to ArcGIS button becomes available in the toolbar and we can click it. Let's give our soon-to-be web map a title. When we open it up in ArcGIS, we have a web map that includes the mapping data from the old app. When using this tool, there are a few important considerations for how your mapping data should be configured in Essentials. To learn more, please see the considerations when using the Save to ArcGIS tool article in our support center. Now, all of that is great if you just have a straightforward viewer, but what happens if you have workflows, reports, and print templates? If you're still using XAML and RPX formats, these cannot be imported into VertiGIS Studio. However, VertiGIS Studio workflow, reporting, and printing are compatible with both VertiGIS Studio Web and Essentials. This means that if you already use these newer formats, there is less work involved in the transition process. And if you haven't quite gotten started with them yet, you can explore them first before making the switch to VertiGIS Studio Web so that you can adjust more gradually to the new software. When it comes to VertiGIS Studio workflow, there are a few things to keep in mind for the transition from the Geocortex viewer to VertiGIS Studio Web. First of all, each viewer type has a slightly different activity library. So you will see different activities based on which deployment you have selected. Web has more activities than the Geocortex viewer does, so building workflows exclusively for web may offer you more options than building workflows for both web and Geocortex, or just Geocortex. Secondly, workflow activities that are tied to information coming directly from the viewer may behave differently or require different inputs. For example, the Get Layer activity might be configured like this for the Geocortex viewer, and like this for the same layer in web. Finally, viewer commands and operations in VertiGIS Studio Web are different from those in Geocortex. So if your workflow contains any run command or run operation activities, they will need to be modified for the transition to go smoothly. To summarize, transitioning from Essentials to VertiGIS Studio Web offers an opportunity to assess and modernize your app. As far as differences go, Web is more closely integrated with ArcGIS Online and Portal for ArcGIS Enterprise. It has customizable modular layouts, and its mapping data is stored in a web map instead of a site XML file. We looked at how to make a web map in Esri's map viewer, as well as how to export a web map from a Geocortex viewer. Finally, we learned that RPX templates and XAML workflows cannot be imported into VertiGIS Studio. However, VertiGIS Studio workflow, printing, and reporting are compatible with both platforms, meaning you can simplify the transition process. Though adopting new technology can be daunting, it also has the potential to usher in new and exciting opportunities. Your GIS applications have grown and developed over the years, and now it is time for them to take the next step to VertiGIS Studio Web. If you're interested in having any part of the transition process done for you, or would like in-depth consultation on how to move forward with it, our professional services team may be able to help. For inquiries about this, please reach out to your account manager.
So I will later show you a bit more about VertiGIS Studio. I will just go a little bit to the background. Why should you use this step to transition from Geocortex to VertiGIS Studio? Why now, right? And so basically there are three main reasons. The first one is that you may remain within your well-known environment with the workflows and the configuration possibilities, but of course, taking advantage of state-of-the-art IT technology, right? So that's really, really important. And second of all, VertiGIS Studio offers significant new capabilities, right, which were never possible in Geocortex, and I will just highlight this within the next slides. And for me, actually, looking at an enterprise setup and also in the discussions over, for example, yesterday, security is always a big concern, right? Especially nowadays with a lot of hacker attacks. The problem is that the ArcGIS API, which is underlying there, this is the ArcGIS API for JavaScript 3.x. This has been retired by Esri. Now the actual JavaScript API is the number 4, right? This was back in July 24, but I will explain this also in a bit more detail. This is, for me, one of the key reasons to quickly move now over to VertiGIS Studio. So in terms of functional equivalence, we are really there. So in case something would be missing, maybe the last little bit of functionality in terms of re-implementation of VertiGIS Studio, you can always build a custom workflows to cover this. So I think in terms of functional equivalence, we are really, really there. If you would like to look at this in more detail, there's a QR code with which you can download a functional matrix, and there you can compare exactly Geocortex functionality to the VertiGIS Studio functionality. So that is available. Otherwise, just ask me. I can send you also this link afterwards. The second point, new capabilities, right? So Geocortex Essential versus VertiGIS Studio. First of all, you have flexible layouts, right? You've seen this with this viewer. There you can define where should be the pane, where should be the buttons, everything you can just by moving and dragging and drop around to assign this. The performance is superior. You have a better device integrations. When you have, for example, in this viewer, there's a little tab, define this now for a specific mobile phone, then you can define this responsive interface for the mobile phone. That is very, very nice and very convenient. You have multi-monitor support. That's especially important if you have a lot of data, for example, big maps or even a lot of attribute data. You can just take, for example, the result set, the table from VertiGIS Studio Web, and drag it to a second monitor so that you have on the one side your attributes, on the other side the maps, and this way you can analyze very nicely. Very, very important features, especially, for example, also in the domain of utilities. 3D scene support from Esri, very, very important. SaaS support, that is also now available. The developer SDK is also available so that you can adapt this VertiGIS Studio in case the standard drag and drop configuration possibilities are not enough. Then we have the drag and drop designer. This is a big difference that you just, by drag and drop, you can put in the tools which you'd like, and also for the workflows. This is very, very new that you have in the workflow designer, everything by drag and drop. And very, very important for enterprise deployments is that you have this VertiGIS Studio true DTAP street environment. So that means from development, test, acceptance to production. You probably will have only production in one staging environment. It depends how large your site is, but it's very important to be able to move all the configurations along from your staging system to your production system, and that in a very, very easy way. And that is also fully supported by VertiGIS Studio. Then you have a lightweight serverless architecture, very important in terms of the IT deployment. Very many dashboard possibilities. I will show this a little bit later in my demo there. You can use also the ArcGIS Experience Builder, as I mentioned already. We have multiple map support. Of course, you can import imaginary web maps or even 2 maps side by side, and seamless embedding into other apps. So that's also possible. And so much more. Yeah, please explore it. And last but not least, the technology change. So there's a link from Esri. If you come up to me, I can send you this link also, but you can also just search for it in the web. This is published. This API for JavaScript version 3 has been retired. So there will be no further enhancement, no further bug fixes. So that means also no security patches. And this is a concern. So basically, more in detail, so this JavaScript API, JavaScript 3, is used by Geocortex. It has been depreciated by July 24 by Esri. However, I have to say that Esri still uses the web app builder, and the web app builder uses also the JavaScript 3 API. So this web app builder will be retired by end of this year. So theoretically, probably if the security breach, Esri should still fix it. But to be sure, I really recommend to get started just to avoid that you have any security issues, since the JavaScript 3 API is officially retired by Esri. And in general, I come now to a slide. So there is always a new technology change, right? So the first new curve, the performance of Geocortex, and here right now about here, it will be enhanced. Because also for VertiGIS Studio is the central development platform for all our vertical application, whether it's government, whether it's utilities, or whether it's infrastructure. So it's an extremely, extremely important part of technology for us. And it's funny, you know, this slide, I probably showed it, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago already, when, you know, there was this technology change from, say, ArcMap 3 to ArcMap 8, right? So there are always technology changes. And of course, there is, for certain time, this discontinuity, but this discontinuity in terms of functional gap is over. And if you look, you know, if we look the first map for Esri from ArcIMS, right? Or the first version of ArcGIS server, or in between there was a like yours. I don't know if you, but there are always new technologies, and it's important technologies to be able to be sure that you are really on the latest technology and you avoid any type of IT security issues. And in the end, it's also for the end users just a brilliant experience, because you're really on the latest technology, and they will love this look and feel of the new technology. Yeah, strategy and tools for the migration. We have here a little slide. So first, I plan and look at what you have. I always recommend to our customers, look at your functionality which you have, make an inventory, because I realize more and more that often the end users, they don't use certain functions anymore. You know, they have been maybe custom built for some requests, but in the end, nobody uses them anymore. So this kind of inventory is very important to be able to really define what's the scope of the work for the next. Then you make your strategy assessment. What is, you know, your principal strategy regarding all apps? And learn VertiGIS Studio. So there we have this tech tip videos. There's a lot of documentation around VertiGIS Studio on our website. So all the documentation is online. And if you want to have also classes, there's Teach Me GIS, which gives remote classes for VertiGIS Studio. And of course, GIS idea also to do that with you, right? So colleagues of GIS are 100% there for you to support you in VertiGIS Studio. And you should also make a decision whether you want to still have the servers on premise, or if you rather would like to go into SaaS deployment. That's also another decision which you'd have to take and consider. That's always an important thing. And the second thing is the actual project. So the first thing is workflows. As you've seen in this tech tip video, you can do this slowly. You can do it either just by importing it still into the Geocortex viewer, or if you directly want to build up a second site with VertiGIS Studio Web and there test it, so you can go in parallel basically. Web maps, either you create them from scratch or you export your data from Geocortex, as we've just seen in the video. And then last but not least, we'll finalize the configuration and deploy it to your site, either on premise or SaaS. Then finally, of course, you need to do a test and gather feedback from the end users, but eventually go into production. We always say, make it good, make it better, make it perfect. So, you know, you get started with this first version, and then, of course, you get customer feedback, and then we can deploy it to the client. Again, continuous improvement, and then reap the rewards, really, because it's a fantastic technology, and I will show you later examples of how it is used in different apps. How to get started? Here are some resources. So there is some low-cost developer assistance. The best is really to ask the colleague from GISTech. You may also hire professional services. Again, the first address is here, GISTech. If you like, of course, you can also have this from VertiGIS directly, but I would really here resort to the colleagues of GISTech. And in case you want to have the apps in SaaS, there's also the possibility of managed services. So that can be done then managed or completely by VertiGIS. You just let us know how the app should be maintained, and we will do that for you. And here are a number of different links which you can use to get started. So in case you have direct questions regarding this transition with VertiGIS, then please send us an email to transition@vertigis.com. This playbook, how to transition, is also available. There's this QR code and there's this link. So there's also all the main steps for this transition described. And then this tech tip video, which I was just showing, this is the link here about this. So this was a little bit the introduction on how to get started from Geocortex to VertiGIS Studio. Now I would like to take a little break and focus now on how we actually use VertiGIS Studio and show you some examples of VertiGIS Studio in action, right? So in principle, VertiGIS strategy is that we have really web and mobile first. And for this reason, applications in VertiGIS. So we, for VertiGIS facility management, for all the utilities, electricity, gas, water, etc., and we have more than 300 utilities working with our tools, is also based on VertiGIS Studio. Also based on VertiGIS Studio. But of course, VertiGIS Studio can also be used standalone by our customers, and they can build their own apps. So it has this kind of dual role as a standalone app designer and also as a basis for all our vertical solutions. I will show this first in the frame of VertiGIS Networks. So in terms of VertiGIS Networks, our utility applications, there we are based on Active Enterprise, Utility Network, and then the VertiGIS Network allows the different VertiGIS networks up to configure according to the end user needs. And so for VertiGIS Networks, we have designed 5 modern utility apps. The most important are the Network Explorer and the Network Editor. So the Explorer is to view and analyze the utility networks. The Network Editor is to edit these networks. The simulator is actually meant for planning of the networks. The Network Locator is for underground automated location response of the networks. And Network Maintenance is again for asset maintenance. And I'd like to show you this now, so that you see how VertiGIS Studio is in action. I will go over to, you don't see this right, a second. Right, so here you see the new layout of VertiGIS Studio here in the frame of the product VertiGIS Networks, right? But all this configuration is done within the VertiGIS Studio design. So I will show you a bit of what is possible here with VertiGIS Studio. So you can have views, right? So you can define what layers should be seen. I need to restart. Yes, okay. Right away, so you can group certain layers and directly turn them on or off, depending on what you would like to see. So that's one big possibility. Of course, you can identify your data, right? And you can receive information on these data. This is something which, of course, is also available in Geocortex and which is a standard tool here. So that's available. The other thing which is very important is then, of course, the selection, right? So I can select here my data. And once I have selected them, I have them here in my results. So it all looks a little bit different than in Geocortex. The important thing is here is the result context menu. So this is this context menu, and I'd like to show them the results now in the table view, right? So here we have now all these in the table view. And the nice thing is, for example, about these water lines, I can always go into this filter and continue filtering the results now by any type of attribute. Say, for example, I'd like to filter it by installation year. Where's my installation year? I can filter them by manufacturing. Then I say what? See, now I have only a subset which are corresponding to this. Of course, here this context menu, again, by drag and drop can be adapted. So you can choose what to put in here. So for example, here we have integrated also a report on service points, right? So this service point report can be directly created from here, or there's a server not running, excuses. And you have also the possibility zoom to show attributes, show associations. Also new is this chart view. So that is very, very nice that you can directly show all your results in a chart view. So if you hover over, then even this chart is active. So you see what kind of attributes are here highlighted. So here this is a certain attribute, certain material, and this is another material, and you can directly highlight this here also. Same for the diameter, right? Another parameter which you can now highlight by hovering over this diagram. So it allows you to quickly analyze these data. So this was selection. Another way of selection is, of course, a query builder. This is something which you know from Geocortex. So here, for example, I can go to a certain water line. Water lines. Water line. And then you can define what you would like to search for. For example, I would like to search for installation year. Age of the infrastructure is always an important topic. And I'd like to find all the years, all the water lines which are older than 1970, right? So he found 38 items which are here in this map. And here selected. So these are down here, right? And of course, you can add further conditions either with an AND or with an OR condition, so that you have many different conditions with which you will be querying. Yeah, another possibility here is, of course, you can do drawing, you can do markups, right? So you can say, okay, I'd like to draw here and have a markup, right? That's possible, and you can go ahead and take notes. You can say here, I'd like to add a note, okay. And then you can say location note, hello world, into the map, right? And then you can share your map. So you can either prepare a sharing link and this to other people, including the nodes and other configurations which we have done. Save your project as a JSON file to your local hard disk, and you can continue working the next day exactly with the same settings as you have done during this day. And then here you can load. And then last but not least, of course, you can also use any workflows. And here there are two workflows, for example, stored queries. These are queries prepared on certain data, or even a kind of a self-service possibility that the end users can build their own stored queries based on this workflow, which is here available. Of course, you have many other possibilities, like, you know, here, for example, the printing. You can change the maps. The printing here, you can go ahead. You can define the scale, say 1000. And you can define a rotation. You can define a map title. You can define an author. And then you will get a PDF map of the printing which you have done, right? Last but not least, there are many other possibilities here. You see the user preference. You can have a light theme. You can have the dark theme, right? You may have a compact view, and this will always change directly while you do it. So that is also quite nice. You can have also different measurement systems. You can have also different locales. So if in case you have a local translation, you can change this also very nicely. And then here you see this is actually the coordinate systems, right? Or you can enter certain coordinates. You have here the bookmarks. so that you can jump to a certain bookmark. So all the functionality which is typically available. I'd like to show you now a different app. Let me just go back to the slides, just to follow up with the slides. VertiGIS FM is our facility management. There we also actually use Studio, and there I'd like to show you also how this integrates nicely with VertiGIS Studio. So VertiGIS FM is a facility management tool. You can there manage maintenance tasks on mobile devices. You can do the maintenance tasks in the office. You can manage buildings, the floors, the rooms, devices in there, and when to do the maintenance on the devices. You can maintain streetlights or other assets. You can organize your contracts with your end users. You can manage energy consumption, manage green spaces. So it's a very versatile tool. We have it now out at more than 900 organizations which use this facility management tool. And what they love about it is this close integration with Esri, right? So they can really make more value out of this GIS implementation. You know, you have invested over so many years, so much money and efforts into the data and of course into the GIS. And so it should be used more in more meaningful processes. So the system architecture of VertiGIS FM basically is you have a centralized database, then you have VertiGIS FM application server and VertiGIS Studio, and this can be either on-premise or as SaaS. Then you have your web-based application, right, for VertiGIS FM. This could be also a mobile client in the responsive design. It could be also a mobile client with offline data. And it could be also system integrations that you have with this VertiGIS FM, a system integration with third-party systems like an invoicing system or any other systems which need to be integrated. Yeah, I'd like to show you this also. So here you see actually a dashboard. This is still VertiGIS Studio, right? And within VertiGIS Studio, you have here now this very, very nice dashboard. It's a pretty simple dashboard, but it's very effective for the end user. So when you move in, you see that actually up here, the contracts, the tickets, and the orders on these different assets adapts. We are actually here in a wind park. So you here see the different windmills. And as soon as I click in here, you know, and this is the VertiGIS Studio interface, you get then also the data on, for example, this windmill, right? And you see here, there's already a ticket available, 2 tickets on this windmill. There has been a number of orders here, and it belongs to this wind farm, right? And it even belongs here also to the parcel, right? So these are what we call the related records. And then you can always go ahead and open directly from here VertiGIS FM. So there I have to log in. And within VertiGIS FM, of course, VertiGIS Studio is fully integrated. While this loads, I will just show you here. Here you can also then, of course, directly report a damage. And this damage, for example, has been created, or this damage reporting window has been created with a workflow. Again, the workflow, which you know from Geocortex, now with this visual drag and drop designer. So that you can have a drag and drop list for damage, and you can define what is the damage, and then you can submit the damage. In this way here, a new node has been given, and this, of course, will directly appear in VertiGIS FM. So VertiGIS FM, here you have this VertiGIS FM. You have here your windmills, and if I click now here on this, then I will actually get the map. And this is now loading. I probably need then also to log in to the portal for ArcGIS, because of course everything is based on portal for ArcGIS. So a standard way of working is here in this widget, you have your asset details. Here you have your navigation window. You see this is a wind park with all the different windmills in there. And below you have then all the attribute data, the technical characteristics, commercial characteristics, and most importantly, the maintenance strategies. But here you see VertiGIS Studio again fully integrated, able to integrate in other. It's of course fully responsive here. You can also have commands in there. For example, here, if I would like to change the imagery to it's a little bit slow. If I want to change the imagery to an aerial image, then I will get this. And most important here maybe is just, I would not go into too much detail, is the possibility to have maintenance strategies. So here, for example, for this windmill, there's a transformer maintenance every 6 months. So whoever is responsible for this, he will automatically get an email that he needs to go out with the VertiGIS FM mobile tool to do the maintenance on this part, right? So another application which I'd like to show you is our government app. This is this one. Other implementation of VertiGIS Studio, right? So here on the top left, you see the 2D data of VertiGIS Studio, right? And here on the right, you actually see a 3D representation of these data, right? So there you see with the 3D data. And below, you see directly a street view. This could be Google Street View or could be another provider. But this way, you have all the three systems side by side. And now, as I said before, you can actually take these windows and pull these out onto a second screen so that you may have, for example, this window on a second screen and these two windows on the first screen. This will give you a much better and ease of feeling of how to use VertiGIS Studio. What is also nice now, you can actually swap the display. So if I go here, I can say I want to, where is this? Yeah, see, I can swap the layout. And for example, I could now go for exactly the same app to a dashboard layout, right? So it will take a bit of time to load this, but it will load now the complete city with all the field work orders, etc., in a dashboard layout. So here you see I have now the dashboard layout. And again, if I hover over these diagrams, then I see, for example, the work orders regarding electric are highlighted those, right? The work orders regarding water are highlighted now. This allows you always to pre-select certain parts of the features in the map. And then you can here, for example, also highlight by the priority. So these are the work orders with a high priority. And you have all these different possibilities to define your dashboard, how it should look like, and how you would like to have this represented. So you just see with a few clicks, you can have a completely different layout, but with the completely same web map. So define the web map once, and then you can have it in different representations for the end users. Yeah, and I wanted to show you also a little bit about the configuration possibilities. So VertiGIS Studio really no code, configuration only. And the 4 ways of configuring VertiGIS Studio are the following. The first one is application configuration. So that means within VertiGIS Studio Web, you can define, hey, by drag and drop, I'd like to put another button, another functionality, another layer, a different web map, etc. So that's the VertiGIS Studio Web viewer. I will show you this in a bit. The second one is really the most important by drag and drop is the VertiGIS Studio workflow that you can add additional workflows. It's the end user through a certain process. And then number 3 and 4, this is really coding, but I would say with 1 and 2, you cover probably 98% of the end user functionalities, right? But in case something is missing for this VertiGIS Studio workflows, these activities, which were also shown in the tech tip video, you can add further activities. So you can decode these, you can create these, and then integrate these custom activities in the VertiGIS Studio workflow window. And last but not least, of course, you can also code through our API custom component and services. So let me show you how to adapt the VertiGIS Studio interface. Here you see this web designer. You've seen it before already in the tech tips. And I'd like to now do a very, very simple task. I would like to add a new button in this interface. So you see, just you take it and you drop it into the right location, because here this is a map viewer. And in this map viewer, you put this in, and so this button appears right away in this map viewer. So it's just as simple as this. And then you can define this button, right? So you can now say, okay, I'd like to have it not at the top end, but at the top center, right? So then I put it at the top center. I could also put it at the top start, so then it's on the left, right? Then I have maybe not rounded, but a square button, okay? Then you have a square. And the nice thing is you have already directly a preview, right? So that's very important. And now I just want to have a button without any tooltip. Then I select the command. So there's the standard commands which are available. And you see actually here up there on the tab, here already is a workflow. So in case you had defined a workflow, you could also use a workflow for this button. But in this case, I'd like to use the standard functionality of export map. So I put behind this button the functionality export map. Then I only need to create an icon. So nice icon. I will search for export. And I get here a few propositions as an icon. So I will take this one. And now I have that button already here defined. And then I always can test it already. So I just click on it. I put in a name for this export map. Go ahead and export this map. And it will do this right away. And then I can open it and look at it. So this was the first possibilities. And of course, there are many possibilities. You can also define the context menus, etc. So, but this is maybe the first one. The second one is about VertiGIS Studio workflow. You've seen it a little bit in the tech tips. So basically, to the left here, you have all these different activities. And in total, it's actually more than 350. And these activities, you just take them by drag and drop and put them into your workflow, right? And this way you can create really this very nice end user experience. And how to do this, it will be shown here, this in a little video here. We are here again in this, this networks. And here, for example, we have this, I edit this now, I will click on this. And now I go to query asset and I'd like to adapt this. In this case, he will add a menu item. So I add a menu item. In this time, I take a workflow, which I have been creating before. So for example, a workflow for a query, yeah, for an attribute search. So I add this into my menu, and then it is right there available. So here you see the attribute search is available. I can define also the icon again for this search item for attributes. So now it's a nice icon, which is telling. And then I'd like to define also where it should be placed. So just by drag and drop, move it a little bit up. And now it is at the right location. And here you see this work. We tested already, my colleague, and it's working. So you can query by the asset name and a certain line. Then you find this. So you always can test your workflows directly in this interface. Now we'd like to create a new workflow. And here I will take a template for a workflow. For example, the search by attribute. Oh no, the draw on the map. So of course you have templates available which you can use to get started. So now I can open this workflow in the designer. So here you have the designer for the workflows, and there you can still adapt it to your liking. Again, by drag and drop, you can put in notes about how you have been creating it, what is important about this workflow, but now you could adapt it. Now you can test it, you can add a geometry, say a point, and submit. And this way you do this drawing on the map, right? So it's done. Okay, with this, we still have a description. An icon. Then you save the complete web app. Ready to be started by the end users. With this, I would like to thank you